Thank you. Where do I go with all these feelings and all these faces and open doors when everyone else seems so serene and I just feel so insecure? And where do I go when all the pieces of my heart lay on the floor? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. Where do I go with all these memories and all these bags filled up with shame? And how should I feel when you call me an angel and dress me in a crown of gold? And what should I do tears of sorrow just won't stay inside these eyes. You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. What should I do when a gentle-headed reaches out to take my hold? And how should I feel when tears of joy, they just won't stay inside these eyes? And what will I do when I start to love you and really trust and know you're there? You say you'll be in the light where I am. You'll be in the light where I am. Come on now, come into the light. You'll be in the light where I am. You'll be in the light where I am. Come on now, come into the light.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to all. Good morning, Sister Usha, Sister Fatima.
Good morning, Sister Belinda. Sister Fatima, are you with us?
Good morning.
Yes, I'm here.
Morning, everyone. So today we're going to talk on a very lovely power. It's a power that actually takes us away from putting blame onto other people, but it actually gives us a kind of indirectly a power to direct our lives. And so maybe the word that we're going to use is called the power to judge. But you know, judging is not about judging people, but it's very much about making correct decisions. So yeah, sisters, what did you feel? The power to judge.
I think you've laid the foundation to the power to judge, which is in a way a little bit like the power to discern, which we described yesterday, except that with this power, you have to, I'm looking for the right word, you have to be able to discriminate yourself, to look at your thoughts, to look at your words, and to look at your actions from a point of discriminating. In other words, looking at it clearly without hiding from the truth. I think that's what I want to say. So we borrow from the power to discern, because to discern is when you sit back honestly and think about what you're seeing inside. But then again, you find that there comes a situation when somebody else has made a mistake. And how do you address that using the power to judge? So you have to use it in the same way that you used it on yourself. That's what I was getting out of it.
Thanks for starting us off, Sister Fatima. I think when I think about this particular power, as Sister Usha said, often we avoid the word judgment or to judge because it comes across as something we shouldn't be doing. But I always like the symbol of the judiciary, which are the scales. They talk about the scales of justice. And this symbol helps me a lot because we use this power actually to bring ourselves into balance. You know, what a judge does is he looks at the complainant, and he looks at the one who's being accused, and then he makes a decision after hearing everything to punish the accused if he's guilty in a way that will bring balance, so that the complainant feels satisfied. And so I always see this at an inner level, that there is imbalance within us because we've discussed a lot about how we've forgotten our true self. And so we need to look at where that imbalance lies and then take that decision to actually correct that imbalance, just like a judge would do. He's correcting the imbalance. And when I talk about balance, what I'm really meaning is to bring ourselves back to our truth and our authentic self. So yeah, those are just a few thoughts.
So I want to just take it from there, but I thought I'll just answer the question first. Wade saying that I still feel I'm not clear about the difference between judging and discerning. And so when we were talking about discerning, we were saying it's like I'm able to sense from an intuitive level. It's not a gross thing of right and wrong, but a deeper sense of intuition. And so discerning is that very fine level. So I can look at something and it looks like a diamond, but how do I know that it's an authentic diamond? Only if I can see with that little microscope to see that actually it looks diamond, it is diamond. And so in discerning, you're normally dealing with something that already looks right, but may not have the right intention. And with judging, like Sister Belinda is speaking about, it's really this idea of getting this fine balance. But let's look at bringing that balance from a point of view where there's different laws at play. Like if we regard ourselves as being bodies, then we have the law of matter at play. We regard ourselves as souls, then we have a spiritual law that governs us. But when we look at that kind of different laws, and there we are as spiritual beings in a physical world, so we need to actually be able to do both to bring justice in a sense. And I'm using the word justice not to say you're right or wrong, but when I can understand that there's a spiritual principle that I need to adhere to, because that spiritual principle is not to lie, not to be deceptive, so I have a very clear spiritual principle. But so, for example, if somebody lied, then I would say, well, that's going against my spiritual principle. So do I act with that person in a way to bring him into order or her into order? And at that point, to in a way, uphold a spiritual principle, do I use like law? Or can I bring in this fine balance of the power of love or the law of love, the spiritual energy, where it's not a principle, but it's a feeling. And I can bring the right energy into it so that I myself don't allow my emotions to get affected by the decision I'm making. And I think this is a very, very interesting thing, because if I am using force to bring about peace, I've already broken a law. And so you can't actually bring peace you can't bring about peace in the world by actually becoming violent. So in the same way, as a spiritual being, I need my understanding to have both the reasoning of the lawful side, but I also need to actually have the loveful side, which is that vibrational sense of the truth, the peace. And when I can have my understanding in a balanced state and I can apply both those laws, what I would choose to act on will actually give me already an outcome. I will know the outcome of that action because I've actually used the spiritual law, and I've also used the principle of love and care and compassion and acted on that. So theoretically, it sounds like it's a definition, but the only way we can actually allow that to happen is when I'm actually living my truth. I'm in my self-respect of knowing that I'm a soul and I'm living with peace and truth inside of myself. And then as I act, the fruit of that actions will give me the vibrations of peace and love. So it's very much something that we have to, they say, walk the talk. And it's very much like that, it's not power without responsibility.
Sister Usha, thank you so much. What I'm hearing from you is that do everything with love. That's what I'm hearing. Even if someone has gone off the rails, bring that person back with love.
And maybe it's an interesting thing about, because when we look at law and the scale, as Sister Belinda said, it's the judge that will make a decision whether this person is going to be imprisoned or not. Now, please correct me if I've got my facts all incorrect. But when in the earlier days, the idea of when somebody did a crime or went against the law, they were taken away from society and put into a quiet place to reflect so that they could actually realize where they had gone wrong. And there's a very interesting thing. When we were kids, our teachers used to make us hold our ears like this, and you had to go and do up and down. And I think we found that quite funny. But actually, do you know that that is called super brain yoga? And the power of that is that when you touch with your hands, there's actually different points on your earlobes. And by crossing over, what you're doing is you're bringing balance between the left and the right, which is the love and the law, the head and the heart. And when you bring that into balance, actually what happens naturally is you calm down and you come to a still point. And so when we're making decisions from that balanced state and a still point, then there's going to be the truth. So I love that idea that we were given corporate punishment to go up and down, but actually somehow the wisdom of that was that it would actually bring back balance into ourselves, and then we would be able to know. So it's supposed to be a rehabilitation from an extreme. And maybe I don't want to take too much time, but you notice when somebody is stressed, somebody is anxious, that's when they do the most things that are out of control, when they feel insecure. So somebody in their normal, powerful state will never do an action that will hurt another person. Anyone who has done anything, a crime, whether they've killed somebody, they've done something, the normal nature of a human being is not to hurt another. But the crime is always performed or a mistake is made when we lose our real self, when we move away from the balance. So any kind of rectification of misdeed should be to allow a person to come back to their neutral spot, giving them rest, giving them security, giving them care. And that's what we can do for ourselves as well.
I was seeing a question about doing everything with love. And in the physical world today, when someone does something wrong, we want justice, an eye for an eye, that kind of thing. And we don't necessarily help those people to transform in that sense. But when someone has done something wrong or someone has made a mistake, instead of shouting or yelling at that person, when you speak from a place of love, in other words, making them understand what or where they went wrong, I think it enables that person to respond rather than to react. And when I was saying that we should do things from love, that's where I was coming from, because today, in today's world, everything is harsh, You make a mistake, I start yelling at you. So what kind of reaction am I expecting from you if I'm yelling at you in that kind of situation? So we have to go inside and remember that we are souls and that love is a part of us. And if we spread that vibration of always trying to speak to people from a place of love, do things from a place of love, you spread that vibration of love out into the atmosphere, and you'll find that people respond to that.
Yeah. This is always an interesting balance, isn't it? Because I think we all agree that love is one of our intrinsic qualities. It is the very essence of who we are. And it's always good not to judge people on the basis of their actions, because the love is for the soul behind the action. And sometimes the action requires some sort of discipline or correction. And it's not that we don't do that. We stay within our truth, and then we do what we need to do. And this applies to our relationships with others, but also with ourselves. Because the power to judge is really to see, we've used the power of discrimination, but now a judge has to make a call. What will bring balance into this situation, whether it's within myself, which is the first place that we use the power to judge, or whether it's in a relationship with someone else. So we stay with that essence of ourselves, and then we do whatever is necessary to bring that balance back. And sometimes in the world, it will require me to take some action, some disciplinary action or something. But I don't lose the essence of myself, which is love, especially when dealing with myself. Sometimes we are our harshest judges, and this is not the aim of the power to judge. It is really the aim of what steps need to be taken to bring balance back to the self.
But perhaps it's good for us to ask, what is the balance we are trying to restore? So what would you, if you think about a balance, what are we restoring? Because, people can have all sorts of ideas about a balance, but it is really something, in realizing how as a soul, we have what we call an intellect, which is the decider. But the decider actually has also have certain information. And if the information is pro just being a body, then it will be very difficult to even work out what balance are we trying to create. Will it be a balance that I don't work too hard and I take enough physical rest, or, and you could just create a balance of that sort. But there is actually when it comes to reasoning, the first is to create that understanding of who I am. So first to step into the truth of my being. And then from that positioning, whether you call it a mental positioning or an understanding, I then understand that for the spiritual being to actually operate in this physical dimension, what is the balance that is required? And so often, the balance is between what we do for others and what we do for ourselves. And if we operate constantly on the basis of pleasing people and trying to, do the stuff that pacifies people, what happens at some point, you will create a state of what peace to pacify, but actually it doesn't actually bring a balance, because when something is already in a needy state and you're having to keep pacifying it, it will just need more and more and more. And so that's why it's important to bring in the spiritual law. And the spiritual law is not a harsh thing. It's actually a practice of understanding that I need to actually sometimes, even though I like a lot of sugar, not to have it. I'm just giving like a physical example. It means to abstain from something. And just by doing that, by abstaining, the body actually, in a sense, will recover because it's had too much of something. So even for the mind, if it's had, or the soul has had too much of something, if you abstain from that, it'll actually allow it to find its neutral spot. So it's nice to know that this is not something that just happens, but we have to consciously spend time understanding ourselves and what are the things and where are the things we get taken off our balance. And what's something like a pain, I think I mentioned this before, that if you have a knot, you press on it quite a lot, and the more pressure you give it, then you actually let the blood circulate and it releases it. So with our mind, if something keeps happening internally and it keeps erupting, for us to actually know what decision to make to solve it is to actually sit with it a little bit and try and understand where it comes from. So in any court case, they go into evidence, they go into give me things to substantiate it. So we also need to spend time in silence, understanding why is it that this is happening to me. And as I do that, I'll be able to touch the root cause of it and then allow the shift to happen. So it is about spending time and unpacking that which is the real thing inside of me. So are we ready to meditate?
I think we are.
So I'm not sure, is it my turn?
Yes.
Or is it Belinda?
It's your turn, Sister Usha.
Okay. Let's take this moment and just step inside of ourselves. And as we step into this sacred space, which is a neutral space. Like when we look at white light, it has within it all the different vibrations of the colors of the rainbow. And by having all the colors, it is transparent. Let me also take this moment and step into the wholeness of my own being. And as I step in, it is as if I become transparent, luminous. And in this beautiful space, I can feel my internal glow spreading out in all directions. And sometimes this glow takes on a different color. It goes into a different shade. And it's at this point that I become aware that perhaps I am leaning onto a specific side, and I have lost my balance to be both loving and lawful, or shall I say, loving and powerful. When I maintain this inner equilibrium of having the ability to work from a deep state of peace and love, which are really the vibrations of softness and compassion, the part of me that is the heart. And on the other end of the spectrum are the qualities of power and wisdom, the part of me that reasons and makes decisions. So let me check in my own inner mirror and see if I have reached that point of equilibrium where the only vibration or the only radiance is this glow of pure transparent light. And in that awareness, I have all my inner qualities in a balanced state to make a decision that supports both my head and my heart. Let me be very clear that that which is truth in terms of facts must be balanced with that powerful vibration of kindness and care, which is the power of love and peace. So let me spend today and experience myself being still, stable in all the qualities, and whichever quality I use, it's always supported by the one that is its opposite. And in this way, I experience the clarity to make decisions in such a way that they will give me the fruit that I desire. When I act and make a decision based on the stillness of the intellect, I am able to even predict the outcome, which in turn allows the soul to remain in peace and in harmony. So let me take a few more moments and just allow me to rest in that beautiful hue of transparent light, feeling my stillness, that beautiful feeling of being absolutely neutral, and knowing that in this space, I, the soul, am in my highest form. I am beyond any biases, preconceived ideas, or opinions. It is as if the slate of my intellect is completely clean and I am open and I have the clarity to act with precision. Feel that hue of pure white light. Feel yourself completely still, silent, at rest. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
So somebody is, I think, not sure, I think like you did explain about doing everything with love, no? Is it another example that we, no, it's an old point. So today is the power to judge, when my ability to reason comes from a balanced state of spiritual love and principles. I have the clarity to decide accurately the spiritual needs of the self and others. There is no room for selfish intentions. I experience a life that is filled with trust, which is righteous, that is free from fear or worry. And so, have a beautiful day. Please feel free to bring your voice into the room